Hey guys, Mike here. So, about what a day for big tech that is. Of course, after President Trump announced what he did with AI yesterday, that pumped a lot of stocks, Oracle up, then Netflix reported, went to the moon, by the way. And so here comes the Mag 7, right? And so they were leading the way today. Obviously, small caps took a break, which we had talked about yesterday. We'll talk about why that is if you missed it yesterday. But in this video is three really big things I want you to take away here. One, I'm going to show you where the money came from that flowed into last week to propel this market up over the last 7 days, or where a good chunk came from. Two, I'm going to give you the latest interview from Cem Karson, because that last one triggered a lot of people because he put a lot of detail and dates and all this other stuff into it and what the drawdown is going to be. And I want you to listen to it because it's very short. I always clip them down for you. Understand it's based on really one simple thing, okay? One simple thing, which we got coming up next week, if you're not beknownst to that. And three, some details about Palantir. Something I want you to understand about one of their founders and why it gives them a huge competitive advantage. And then, no, it's not just because they gave money to Trump and support him. It goes way deeper than that. So I was reading about this today, so I want to pass it on to you. So when I see people in the comments go Palantir to 100, I'm like, honestly, how can anybody, after seeing the run after November 5th, how can anybody say that's just not going to happen? It's like, dude, again, a lot of those stocks after November 5th, we know they didn't move off fundamentals. They moved off of sentiment, which is what moves it. And they moved off of going, this is what we think is going to happen going forward with the new administration. Okay. And so we're going to talk about that. And just FYI, because I had people ask me in the comments last night, I hate both parties equally, right? I believe there's a uniparty if there's any party at all. I believe in voting for the best person. And as my grandfather taught me, and I teach my son, and maybe it's a military thing, I don't know. We're all in the military here. But it's like, I don't care, I don't like hurting any politicians, but whoever's elected president, where you voted for them, didn't vote for them, guess what? You got to root for them, because if you don't root for them, you're basically rooting against America. And that's not the way we roll in my household. And so when any president gets elected, I don't care if it's George Bush, Obama, Biden, Trump, whoever, I really hope to make the right decisions. I hope we do what's best for the country, and I hope we move forward. That is my belief. But I do have to cover stuff if, for example, the AI thing that came out, also the stuff President Trump said about EVs, things that Biden has said, dumb moves that Biden made, maybe what's going to be some smart or dumb moves by President Trump. I got to call that out if it's going to affect stocks. That's the way it is. If you can't handle that, then, I wish you the best, say la vie, but that's the way it has to be. And that's just the way it works. Okay. I'm going to call myself out. I'm going to call anybody else out. So again, there we go. Hopefully that settles that. And I read all the comments. So that's why I wanted to say that. Now, where did money go last week? Where did it come from? Okay, when you see this big move. Well, we're back to norm. Guess what? Woo! Large caps, almost 14 billion went in there. That's what we were seeing for weeks, right? And of course, bonds, not much anymore. I mean, a couple billion here and there. Small caps, hardly any. Mid caps, not much going on there. Actually, small caps were negative. So again, and of course, why? Once again, this is the S&P 500. The blue one without the Mag 7, and then here's the Bloomberg Magnificent 7 price return index, and you can see big difference, big gap. Okay, that's where all the earnings come from, is the big boys. Okay, because if they don't like you, they'll crush you and buy you out. Either way, that's where all the earnings that push up the market come from, and that's why money continues to flow in. Those Mag 7, 8, can change, right? They've changed over time. Look at Nvidia in there. Now, all of a sudden, you look at the Mag 8, it's Avgo. Now, where does some of this money come from? U.S. money market funds. What happened? Big withdrawal, big drawdown, about 60 billion. And you can see, when you go back and start pulling up these right here, there's really no rhyme or reason to it when you look at this. So you look at March 2023, September 2023, actually September, October. And then there's somewhere February, March area right there you can see. And you pull over in the S&P real quick just to look. And again, that is a lot of money coming in, right? Usually, what I notice is when you get in pull downs, that's when you see the biggest outflows, right? And where do you think it's going? It's either going to bonds last week or the week before that because of why? To lock in interest rates. But also when the market does these dips, that's when money starts flowing out of money market funds. And they start buying on the dips, okay? And so I think that's what you're seeing. And so that makes sense. And again, we'll get into the S&P and the market breadth and all that fun stuff, which I covered before. And a very important dark pool level that we rejected off of twice today, so we'll mark that on the charts. But first, I want to go in and hear Cem Karson in his latest interview, which was early Monday. And so again, we've moved up quite a bit Monday, Tuesday, and today. Okay, but listen carefully, and this all his things he's talking about hinges on basically one thing, and it's that simple.
We need to hit new highs and meaningful new highs from here if we are going to continue this rally. And our view is that this is really a counter, even though it feels like much more right now, really just a counter trend rally in the context of what is really a supportive set of flows broadly that are now fading. And so the trade at this point, in our view, is in the absence of some liquidity bazooka, for lack of a better term, something where the Fed does a 180, and then all of a sudden, and you got some clues that that's possible. I don't want to make that sound like unlikely, but if Trump at all really pushes the Fed, and all of a sudden there's a surprisingly dovish Fed in the context of sticky inflation and a market at all-time highs, unless we get that, I would expect, if it's just a coming Fed meeting of, hey, we're going to stand pat and watch, I think this market is likely to fade. And I think when I say fade, I'm not expecting anything critical in the first half of this year, but I am looking for a very wide chop. And I think we revisit lower lows than that November gap fill, likely in the 5,500 in the S&P, down all the way potentially to 52, somewhere in that range. And we probably see that in March, around March OPEX, and that low will then probably lead to another massive rally near the highs again. So I think it's just a lot of really wide chop. That's a 10% plus drawdown from peak to trough, followed by a 10% kind of type rally. And I think it really lines up with likely happening into March OPEX, and then a rally out after March OPEX is kind of what we would expect in that scenario. So people would then say, okay, maybe we get a minor new high there and people think we're back to the races, kind of like they feel like they are now. And then again, I think that one fades again, and that will be the last one. And is that in May? Is that in June? Is that in July? I'm not sure. We'll watch and see, but we really think second half of this year, or approaching second half of this year, is when we finally give up a topping process.
And so hopefully that makes sense. I mean, what do we have next week? The Fed meeting. Is the Fed going to come out, and they're going to be under immense pressure? It ain't just President Trump. Every president does this. All of them want easy money, easy monetary policy, because the stock market and the economy can function better under them for that. That's what they want, right? They want to be remembered for that. And so again, he's going to be under immense pressure. It's just how happened. The president we have now tweets a lot, right? And so he'll be on Twitter and Truth Social and all that good stuff, pounding him if he doesn't get dovish and they don't continue to cut rates. Because remember, right now, because of the economic data being strong, which is good for people in the economy, they're the Fed watchers say they're not cutting until like June, July, and that's pretty important, right? And so we'll see if they flip again. We all know Jerome Powell, as far as I've ever seen, the man ain't never had a backbone in his life, but we'll see. He folded the first time under Trump. The first time he folded, they started cutting. Okay, and they only raised it 2.5% then. And so I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to fold on this one too. And so, because remember, no Fed wants to be known as the Fed that drove the economy into a recession. That's just the way it is. They rather, they don't care. I mean, if they got to fight one or the other, like let inflation go back up, but still give us our growth and all that fun stuff, and we don't go into recession. So anyway, now that's kind of what I think. But please let me know what you think in the comments. And I look. I applaud anybody that has the guts to go out there and get that detailed. Honestly, I do. I mean, you should too, to be honest with you. And it's funny because him and Tom Lee, who are track two totally different things, have both said kind of the same thing, where the second half of the year might be rough. And ain't nobody more bullish than Tom Lee, by the way. And so that's going to be interesting. But everybody kind of projects a good first half at this point in time, except obviously he said March OPEX, June, July. He don't even know. Do we get another pullback? We'll see. All right. Now, going into SPX, very important to pull up SPX today, guys, because the SPX by pennies made a new all-time high, and that was when we started pulling down, okay, right there. I mean, it barely made it. You can pull it up. It says, we're talking about where it says 52-week, and then, today and all that stuff. So it was a new all-time high by pennies, but the SPY actually didn't do that. And you can see it right here, right? So it's today's range, 52-week range, and so 6,100.81 technically is the new all-time high for it, but the SPY didn't hit that. And as soon as it hit it, that's when the market started, basically going sideways to down, right? And just burning premiums like crazy if you're holding options right there. And then finally did a little sell down at the end of the day. And so when we go over here, we can see clearly That right there is the level, but we hadn't reached a new all-time high on SPY. As you can see when you look to the left right there. And so this line I got marked out right here, that is this dark pool level 607.58, which was a big dark pool level in 2024. And so therefore we did reject multiple times, as you can see right here on the chart, and then proceeded to sell off a little bit right there. Not much though. And when we go back over to the bigger chart and look at the bigger time frame and stuff and pull out, I mean, obviously, this move up has been huge, absolutely enormous. 1, 2, 3, 4, the 7 straight green days, if I'm not mistaken, right there. And so again, will we set all-time highs? Pretty much is in the card at this point in time, and at least the SPX did. But it's normal when you hit all-time highs. We did this on the SPY XPX before. As soon as they hit it, to start to sell back down. And what you're looking for, just see like, okay, at some point in time, we got to pull back down here to set a lower high if this is the real deal. Okay, and where's that going to be at? Is it going to be at the other blue line, which we had put there around the 600-ish? Is it going to be around 602? And that's completely normal, especially after they run up like today. So we will put this line in here at 602.35, I'm not mistaken. And then we'll have one at 602. And these should be levels if we do come back down. Eventually we will, because we always do, and set a higher low. Like that's what we're looking for. Hopefully I said that before when I was talking about setting a higher low. And of course, one reason you're getting a bounce like this is because of the breadth. Right now, I think I mentioned this a long time ago, but when you're down below 26, when it comes to S&P stocks above their 50-day moving average, then you're going to get a bounce, and usually it's a pretty good one, right? And as far as the 200, we're in no man's land right now. And there's the NASDAQ 100, and there's RTY, which come down into this level right here. And it got a good bounce. It paused today, why? Because it had a huge rally up to the 50 moving average. So it did pause and go a little bit red today. So we'll see where that was going to go. And you really want to consolidate more than anything else. But when you look at the breadth, this is what I'm talking about. When you get down there below that line, as I talked about weeks ago, you're going to get this rally. And then you're going to see if it's going to continue up. And I don't know, I've never even tried, like, I guess in a way, I put these lines in here for a reason, but I've actually never tried charting this thing. So I'm curious to see if we actually come up here, hit this trend line and reject. Because when you look at the stocks above, like the 200 moving average, it actually stayed in this range for almost an entire year. Every time we get to this line, it will reject down. We get a sell-off. Every time we hit the bottom, here we get a pop. And so I just want to see if that's the case or not. But again, coming down to set a higher low is normal if this rally is the real deal, okay? Now, getting into Palantir. Again, when I say somebody's trying to short stuff, it's a group of friends I have, or maybe even a member or something, or multiple members saying, yeah, they're looking to short it right here in this area, and I'm just letting you know about it. Again, that's another thing that triggers a lot of people. But when you look at it, it's in the golden pocket, right? And I remember talking today, and I don't short stocks by actually selling the stocks. I buy puts, but in this case, I never have shorted Palantir because I know it has a huge following, and when it gets any, you don't even have to get news, man, honestly. But again, and with this one, all I have to do is get contract news or something coming out, and this thing's going to rip your face off, right? It's almost like Tesla in a way. And so many people trying to short that have been just smoked. And when you look at this one, it's at the golden pocket. It respects the fibs, as you can see. Expect if we obviously, and if you're a bull, all you're looking for is to hang on to that trend line and not break the 50 fib. Okay, that's what you're looking for. And if you're a bear, you're looking to do the opposite. But the big thing to look at on Palantir, one reason they have a big advantage over a lot of stocks is a lot of people think it's because of Peter Thiel. For those who don't know, he is a co-founder of Palantir, co-founder of PayPal, mega rich, a multi-billionaire, right? And understand, yes, he supported Trump. He also supported Trump in the first term he did. Okay, so he's been, matter of fact, he was so influential with Trump in the first term that Trump gave him an office in Trump Tower, and then Peter Thiel plays the long game, right? He ain't all over Twitter and trying to get a lot of publicity. He hangs in the background pretty much, right? You may notice the CEO for Palantir, his partner, he's the one who gets all the headlines. Peter Thiel just sits in the background with his $1 billion Roth IRA making billions, right? But he's very smart. And so what he did in the first term was he was able to put into the administration two people very close to him. One in charge of, guess what, technology. The other one was an assistant when it comes to national defense. What does Palantir do? Both of those? Sure does. Then, 2017, he hires J.D. Vance, who's, of course, not in politics at that point in time, to work for his investment firm. Guess what he does after that? Sends $15 million to J.D. Vance to run for Senate. Make sure he gets elected Senate in Ohio. Of course, what happens when he ran for vice president, and he's the one that actually suggested to President Trump to get this guy as vice president. And then, of course, he supports him by, raising and donating millions upon millions of people, or not people, but dollars to the campaign. And so he may not, be all out in front or whatever, but he has his people literally in the administration, okay? So he doesn't just have the ear of the administration, he has people working in the administration. And so these contracts that are coming up, if you don't think for a second Palantir's got an inside lane, you know, I'll be stunned if they don't get them. There's one that came out today, which I think is fake news, which is why I didn't put it out here to you, because it sounds too crazy to me, and I couldn't find somebody to source it. If I find somebody to source it, I'll put it out to you. But I'm just telling you, they have, or that gentleman has put his company at the forefront to make sure they get contracts and stuff. Now, you know, so I'm just putting that out there to you. If you're trying to short it, good luck to you. Again, you know, and I'm straight up, I'm not in the stock, I'm not shorting the stock or whatever. I'm just covering it because people ask me to cover it, and it's a very interesting stock to cover. And so we'll see what happens. But, you know, if there's any contracts come out, I will let you guys know. But I thought that was very interesting to understand. You know, we all know money talks in every administration. So, you know, that's the way it is. Now, Nvidia. This one right here, big move up, and it moved up like all the rest of these. This ain't just Nvidia, right? This is all these semiconductors, especially like ARM, all of them are moving, anything they can do with AI, all for the $500 billion investment supposedly is going into the economy and into AI. So, of course, this moved. What you want to look for, though, and again, this one really respects the fibs, too. Hits the 0.79, never gets above it. But what you want to see is finally maintain between like 140, 145, actually maintain this level, come down, you know, set a higher and low, and then start to move from there. Again, it's over the 50. You got to remain over the 50 as well. So that's what you're looking for on this one, okay? I'm be stunned if we don't get some kind of slight pullback tomorrow to set this on a lot of these stocks, but you never know the way this market's going. Now, of course, since Nvidia was going today, what wasn't going? Tesla, of course. I swear I wish these two would shake hands and actually move at the same time up more than 1 day or 2 days, right? But the key levels, again, the 410, the 414, they held. Right, they absolutely held. That channel was resistance once again, and so if those hold or if those break, just look for the 0.5 fib to bounce off of right there, around like 407, I believe it is. And because that's where we bounced last time. And then if you're moving up high, the next fib right there around 428, I believe it is. If that breaks, then we move back up into the channel. That shaded box up there I got, that's still like the overall target if this starts to turn back up. And so, once again, at some point in time this year, I can't predict when, these two stocks are going to start moving on a daily basis together. I'm about dang determined. But that shaded box starts at 439 if we start moving back up. CRM, Salesforce, this is a good setup because it came down on prior highs, right? It had almost like a double top right there on this prior highs, and it bounced, okay? Got a great bounce. Right now it's sitting at the 50 moving average, so it has to get above the 50 moving average. You can see over there, it rejected at 1.5. That was a new all-time high. And so this one's setting up pretty good. I mean, you look at that structure, and so I expect this one, again, this is software, right? And of course, software is projected to probably do pretty darn well after a 15% pullback. So watch for this one. And if not, if you're looking for stocks or even ETF when it comes to this, I'd look at IGV, this one right here. You can see another breakout here. I covered this one back when it was down there like less than 100, and we had a good move up. And now we had a nice pullback, nice move up. RSI is over 50, bullish MACD cross. Need to get above that zero, of course, on the daily. But this is one of those ones that is in a sector that should do pretty darn well, you would think, right? And when you come over here and look at the stocks in it, I mean, you can see Oracle, obviously, why they have a big day. Oracle's up huge. Microsoft finally woke up today. There's Salesforce, ServiceNow, Adobe still kind of struggling, needs to get out of its own way. Palo Alto, and then you see CrowdStrike down at the bottom. So there's something to look at. And then the one investment I didn't even think of, which frustrates the brakes off me, I cannot believe it, I don't know if you guys did, was this right here. For-profit prisons. Didn't even think about this. GEO Group spent a record amount of lobbying in 2024 leading up to Trump's inauguration. Analysts project 46% rise in revenues, 46% rise in revenue in 2025, and a further 79% in 2026 because, again, if they start rounding up all the illegals, they got to put them somewhere, right? When they separated the children from their parents, they put a lot of them over here in Florida in a for-profit prison, and I'm talking about those prisons made millions. It's almost crazy how much the government pays them to house people. It's unbelievable. And so I didn't even think of it. Please put in the comments, did one of you guys think of that? Because it didn't even dawn on me. I've never invested in prisons before, but I should have thought about that. They've ran so much now, I won't even touch it. But if it gets a pullback, I might want to think about it. But at least I bring it to your attention so you can look these groups up. There's a couple of them you can try to invest in, but I definitely wouldn't chase. That is for sure. Now, looking at earnings tomorrow, GE Aerospace, because space stocks have been going crazy. American Airlines have been doing really well. Texas Instruments, and then CSX is the railroad. And then finally, we do got some data coming out in the morning. Unemployment claims, and then crude oil inventories. And if the unemployment claims come in as is or under, obviously that will be hot, right? So you could see yields maybe pop, but if it comes in over, could see yields drop. So anyway, hope you guys got some out of it. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you did. Think about signing for the membership, less than McDonald's combo. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.